The uncertainty and fear that you are feeling today is real. But I want you to know that every single person here and then some has your back. And we are going to litigate, legislate, agitate, and resist because you are worth it.
Hey, resist doesn't.
So we will see you in Congress, in the courts, and in the streets.
Yes, we will fight them in the Congress. We will fight them in the courts. We will fight them in the streets. We will fire on Fort Sumter. We will bring our lynching post. There's a restaurant in town called the Lynching Post. Democrats love that place. It's a big hangout for them. Ho, ho, ho. It's a hangout. See, it's the Lynching Post. That's a little joke. There isn't really a restaurant called the Lynching Post. There is one called the Hitching Post, but that's a good place. Don't worry about that. Speaking of all that, and Ayanna Pressley, she shaves her head like she's in a prison gang in Venezuela. She's completely nuts. She's berserk. And a mainstream Democrat, too, because they're all pretty much crazy, aren't they? I mean, whack-a-doodle-doo. I heard it again this morning, but I love it. It was now governor and former White House spokesmodel, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who famously said not so long ago that the choice in the United States is not between right and left, Democrat and Republican. It's between normal and crazy. Normal and crazy. And it's fairly unambiguous at this point. The results are in. The Democrat Party is mentally ill. They're completely crazy. We got Pocahontas for you today. She's out in the street screeching like a mental case. She should be living in a bus stop with a cardboard box over her. The way she screams and yells out on the sidewalk and the things that she says. Completely berserk. Nutty person. And I got to say, since I was talking about the Democrat and their long history of hanging people, it's the history of hanging people in the United States of America. Is the history of the Democrat Party. Haktui, I say, Haktui. But I got a wonderful gift in the mail, and I just got it today. Sometimes things get lost. I don't know when it actually got to the building in Washington, D.C., but wonderful with a nice note. And it's from Ben. I don't want to use full names from Ben, who sent this from near Tyler, Texas, in Lindale, Texas. And it's a wonderful, you know those air freshener things that you can hang from your rearview mirror in your car? If you take a lot of taxi cabs or Ubers, you might see these. Sometimes they're shaped like Christmas trees and they're green and stuff, right? But this one is Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, and it's there he is, Jeffrey. It's a cutout of Jeffrey Epstein, about 3.5 inches high. And it says, this air freshener didn't hang itself. This air freshener didn't hang itself. It's the Jeffrey Epstein air freshener. It's a wonderful gift, just great, from Ben in Lindale, Texas. And we're having fun with it today, showing it to everybody and laughing about it. Because when the Democrats murder people, you know, it turns out to be good for laughs later on. Oh, speaking of which, we have an update out of Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, where there's not necessarily a lot of brotherly love, but there's some pretty crazy stuff going on because we told you we played audio of the riots and the fireworks going off and the madness in the streets of Philadelphia after the Philadelphia Eagles. How do you spell that again, the Eagle? Because the Democrat mayor of Philadelphia doesn't know how to spell the word Eagles. And she's an educated person, well-educated person.
E-L-G-S-E-S, Eagles!
Yes, the mayor of Dyslexiaville. She is pretty amazing. Well, it turns out I've got an update. The New York Post has the update after the riots and the mayhem and the fireworks and tearing down streetlights and parading them around in the city on the pole. And they grease the poles on the streets. They grease the poles in the streets in Philadelphia when they're in a big sporting competition to try to keep people from climbing them. But many Philadelphians they've evolved. They've developed special biological skills, and now they can scale greased light poles. Kind of an amazing thing. It is. But the update after, more than 20 arrests and on to like $100 billion in damage. I just made up the dollar figure, but, lots of damage. But here's the story from the New York Post, covering the news unlike the Washington Post and unlike the New York Times. 2 men slain, execution style, in hail of 40 bullets as Philly celebrates Super Bowl win. It's best, I think, to not have a body count after a Super Bowl win just because, hey, my team won. Boom, 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 boom. 40 rounds fired, 2 people killed. Execution style, they say. Pretty remarkable. So congratulations go out to Philadelphia for their big Super Bowl win, and condolences to the families of the 2 men that were killed execution style in a hail of at least 40 bullets in Philadelphia early Monday. That's after midnight on Super Bowl Sunday. And again, Super Bowl Sunday we need to line this up with President's Day. So the next day is a national holiday. It's President's Day. Either that or move the Super Bowl to Saturday. And, don't have Philly and Kansas City in again because they didn't make for a very good game, I got to say. But the cops respond to the intersection of Claridge Street and Adams Avenue in the northeast section of the city around 3:30 a.m. Reports of a person with a gun. And Philadelphia police said in an email to the New York Post they found a 32-year-old man at the scene with multiple gunshot wounds to the face and the torso. And a second victim in his late 20s or early 30s, they don't know. They can't ask because he's dead, too. With similar wounds, the police department said. So you can ask him all day long, but he's not going to answer. Both men were pronounced dead at the scene. And, hey, so congratulations to Philadelphia. This is why they had a jail in their football stadium for decades and decades. Then they built a new stadium, and as I understand it, they built jail cells in the new stadium, too. But they have since, wink, wink, closed them down because they said, our fans aren't rowdy like they used to be. And then the guy who said that got a D-cell battery cranked against his cranium, and he fell to the ground because, Philadelphia, they are the Palestinians of the NFL. Philadelphia fans, Eagles fans in particular, when it comes to sporting fans, they're kind of Hamas. They're a little bit Hamas. They didn't take any hostages, but speaking of which, President Trump now giving the Hamas troglodytes, the filthy slugs that have oozed out of the earth to kill and spread mayhem. President, and they're still holding hostages. How many hostages are they still holding? A whole bunch of hostages. A plane load of the savages are still holding. And did you see when they released 3 hostages and the idiots of the world said, oh, isn't that, they're so generous. Oh, there are 3 hostages. And they looked like they were just liberated from Bergen-Belsen by the army, emaciated and sullen and dressed like they came from a Socialist Workers' Party death camp, those Hitler people in their Socialist Workers' Party. So freed Israeli hostage, and when he was being released and the savages were trotting him out, dressed like terrorists with their communist rifles and everything. And turns out the freed hostage, Eli Sharabi, he was just saying, now I get to see my family. And he was kidnapped on October 7th, of course. Get to see my family. And the savages were laughing in his face, because they already knew that on October 7th, they murdered his wife and they murdered his 2 daughters, and that he wasn't going home to see anybody, and they thought it was pretty funny. And President Trump yesterday made it clear, unambiguously, that the savages must release the hostages by Saturday. Today is Tuesday, or there will be hell to pay. And I've got to say, I can only imagine what they have in mind, but I can't imagine what they have in mind. And using the resources of the American military, the American intelligence community. Remember them? We used to have an intelligence community that wasn't just an engorged appendage of the Democrat body politic. And, you can hunt these savages down and do them in. And if they're walking into their homes where their families reside, all the better, I've got to say. Snuff the next generation out while they're eating their tabbouleh. I love tabbouleh. Don't you love tabbouleh? I love that tabbouleh. And it's and it's fun to say because it's tabbouleh. Yeah, so freed hostage Eli Sharabi was reportedly unaware his wife, daughters were killed on October 7th. And here's a picture of him with his wife and his daughters, and they're having a nice time and being civilized people when the troglodyte savages, the bloodthirsty ghouls, attacked and, murdered and kidnapped and raped and savaged everyone. And they must be hunted down like the savages that they are and snuffed out. And I've got a bit on that, and we have a wonderful Israeli ambassador talking about that for you today, too. So, released hostage Eli Sharabi, first request when he was back in Israel was to see his family because he was unaware that his wife and 2 daughters were murdered in the Hamas onslaught on October 7th, 2023, Hebrew media reported. Sharabi's wife, Leanne, and their daughters, Noya, 16 years old, and Yahel, 13 years old, were killed in their home's safe room. They had to have a safe room at the kibbutz Be'eri, all right? And he and his elder brother, Yossi, were taken captive. Yossi has since been confirmed dead because the savages murdered him, and now they're holding his body hostage. And that's why they must be hunted down like the savages that they are. So we've got that going on. It's the war against civilization. And if you believe in civilization, then you should be on the side of, like me, hunting them down like the savages that they are and destroying these life forms before they kill again because, they're savages. And the Democrats like to fund them. We got another story about that today, too, because the Democrats, boy, they love the left. They love savagery. They love the lunacy. They love everything terrible. But it turns out USAID funded college tuition. That's the the U.S. Agency for International Development, funded college tuition for jihadists who joined Al-Qaeda, right? Tuition for Colorado State University. Years before he was killed in an American drone strike, right? The June 1990 file shared online shows U.S. Agency for International Development granted Anwar al-Awlaki, his request for an exchange visa. He wanted it like he's an exchange student after he fraudulently claimed he was a Yemeni national. And USAID vetted him to their satisfaction and then funded the suicide bombing jihadi terrorist who eventually had to be killed in a drone strike. Remarkable stuff going on this planet. It's important to be on the right side of things. And again, it's the crazy versus normal, normal versus crazy. The Democrat Party, I think you know which one they are. So big headlines today. NBC fake news. They're against Trump on this and on everything else because of their mental illness at NBC fake news. Trump threatens, quote, all hell is going to break out, end quote, if Hamas delays hostage releases. They've already violated the fake ceasefire agreement because savages don't adhere to ceasefires that they agreed to. They just look for another opportunity to murder you and your family. Donald Trump pushes for plastic straws. This has got him going crazy, too. The Democrats, they're very upset about that cocaine-addicted turtle. And they're the ones that got the turtle addicted to cocaine, aren't they? And some Democrats grabbed a turtle, jammed a plastic straw in its nose, took pictures of it, and pretended it was that girl from the napalm picture in Vietnam. Said, hey, we're going to make a cause out of this. We're going to ban plastic straws because they work too well. They don't like things that work well, illegal aliens and paper straws. But President Trump yesterday has had enough of this paper straw stuff, and he's pretty funny on it, I've got to say. And President Trump granted a pardon to the former, and I love this, that none of the headlines call him a Democrat, because he's the former governor of Illinois, and he went to prison, went to the penitentiary for bribery. He was trying to sell, among other things, Barack Obama's Senate seat after Barack Obama left, to become the guy who slows the rise of the ocean. And amazing stuff. President Donald Trump pardons ex-Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich 5 years after commuting his sentence. Yeah, he's a Democrat. Amazing stuff. And in the meantime, let's see, Democrats send warning to Donald Trump. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Iran sends warning to Donald Trump. It's not the Democrats, it's Iran. But what's the difference? Because Iran is threatening to and promising to kill Donald Trump, assassinate him, changed his security profile quite significantly for the Secret Service, Iran. But, you know, it was actually a Democrat that shot him through the ear, and another Democrat had to be pulled out of the bushes with a rifle, and another one arrested. Where was he? In Idaho, that he was going to assassinate Donald Trump. Good news out of the FBI. The FBI finds secret JFK assassination records after Trump ordered. They lost them for more than half a century. Hey, anybody have those JFK assassination records? Search me. I don't have them. But now they found them. Isn't that amazing? And, we had a great caller yesterday from North Carolina. We were talking about Fort Bragg, because the Democrats unnamed Fort Bragg. Turns out Fort Bragg, the Army base in North Carolina, had been named after a Democrat. So a Confederate during the Civil War. They were all Democrats, you know. And now it's been renamed Fort Bragg again. But there's a wrinkle, and I've got that coming up too. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. You know, if you want to fight waste, fraud, and abuse in Washington, the Democrats want to fight you. And they call you evil, because they're the party of waste, fraud, and abuse, and they're the party of evil. You know, after school Satan Club, to just name one thing, and, of course, transgenderizing your children, all of that. Let's go to the telephones, Michael, tick, tick, tick. Let's go to Greg, calling from Brookville, Maryland. Oh, Gregory, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris.
Hey, Greg.
I have an observation. In the 1990s, President William Jefferson Clinton, a Democrat, declared that the era of big government was over. We now have a president who's trying to implement that policy and is being opposed by the same party that Mr. Clinton was a nominal head of. What's wrong with this picture?
What is wrong with this picture? What does that tell you, Greg?
That they'll do anything they want whenever it's suitable to them. They don't have a set policy or principles, to me.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, and that they have devolved to the point that what they used to claim to stand for, and they do this, they can turn on a dime. You know, Barack Obama was against gay marriage as a Christian until the fundraising dried up then.
The era of big government is over.
Ah, yes. Just another lie by the liars. The party of abnormal. What was her name? Abby. Abby something. Abby something? Abby normal. Abby normal. The Democrat Party. I've got to say, it's funny because President Trump, he's talking about common sense now. We've been talking about common sense for a long time here on the radio show, and common sense isn't, friendly fire isn't. Common sense isn't. And President Trump talking a lot about common sense. And I think that's great because we should bring back common sense. I remember common sense. I miss common sense. It used to be common, and then the left came along. And Sarah Huckabee Sanders saying that the choice in the United States is between normal and crazy.
The dividing line in America is no longer between right or left. The choice is between normal or crazy.
That is a fact, Jack. Can I just say that? And speaking of crazy, Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, as he is commonly known. I think even in grade school he was known as the Lizard King because of the scaly surface and the tongue hanging out of his mouth, out of the side, like a gecko. And Chuck Schumer now, being the ridiculous person that he is, he's actually being mocked. I'll say that, because Chuck Schumer posted online, which is what everybody does, right? That he wants people. He created a tip line for what he calls whistleblowers, to report government abuses of power. And it turns out that, and Ginny sent me this wonderful item. It's great. So Chuck Schumer with a whistleblower hotline, a tip line to report abuses of power. Senator Ted Cruz jumped in on Chuck Schumer's online whistleblower tip line and said, great, I want to report Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Chuck Schumer. Let's start there, shall we? And there's a comedian named Tim Young who said, we already have that. It's called Doge, right? Then Elon Musk himself weighed in, said, look into this Schumer guy. He's definitely done crime. And that's how the Democrats have been doing it for years, right? They identify a political opponent and say, let's find a crime to hang him with, because that's what Lavrentiy Beria did when he was head of the KGB under Joseph Stalin. And now that's what the people that call themselves Democrats do all the time. The Democratic Party isn't. Man, oh, man. Yeah, and who is it? Katie Pavlich, who you may see occasionally on the television, said, I have someone to report, pictured here at the Supreme Court threatening Justices Kavanaugh and Gorsuch. I think that's a good idea, too. Now, who did that again, Michael? Oh, yeah, that was the Lizard King. That was Chuck Schumer threatening two Supreme Court justices. And then what happened? Oh, and then a crazy man with a gun showed up outside the home of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
You will pay the price. And then the crazed gunman with additional magazines of ammo and burglary tools and kidnapping tools showed up outside the home. He traveled from across the country, and he was planning on murdering three Supreme Court justices, inspired by the Lizard King, by Chuck Schumer, who should obviously experience a pre-dawn FBI battering ram raid with armored vehicles and helmets with flashlights. I like the helmets with flashlights part. That's one of my favorite parts. And, of course, you know, I guess for this one, we don't want a CNN camera crew because they'd never air it. Better make it a Newsmax camera crew. And then it'll get the coverage that it deserves. Remarkable stuff. Yeah, so Chuck Schumer calling for whistleblowers to come forward and report abuses of power. And that is what Doge is doing. The Democrat Party is not only the party of abnormal and of lunacy and of madness and of violence and of political street violence and of, everything bad. They support Hamas and Al-Qaeda when they can. Remarkable stuff. But they're the party of waste, fraud, and abuse. And we know this because if you stand up and say, I'm here to fight waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, they shout you down, scream at you, throw batteries at you like they're Philadelphia hockey fans. And they bring batteries to throw at hockey games, at hockey players. And it's kind of, they heat up pennies with lighters and throw them on the ice. So when you skate into one, they'll trip you up real good and cause a ding in the sharp blade on your skates, too. But never mind that. Yeah, so if you stand up and say, I want to fight waste, fraud, and abuse, the Democrat Party immediately stands up to fight you. What clearer indication do you need that the Democrat Party, defenders of waste, fraud, and abuse, fighting for more waste, fraud, and abuse, and against anyone that would impede rampant waste, fraud, and abuse? Because they're not liberals, they're the left. And now Chuck Schumer, being the clown, the scaly, lizard-like, serpentine clown that he is, Social media erupts after Schumer opens tip line for whistleblowers to report government abuses of power. Man, just amazing stuff. This guy, honestly, if he were living in Israel, he'd join Hamas. He's just on the wrong side of everything. All right, let's go to, I was just talking about Philly fans and heating up pennies and throwing them in the ice and throwing batteries and stuff. And I see that on the line, we have a nice lady that wants to talk about Philadelphia and being a sports fan and everything. Let's go, Michael, to Louise, calling from Sterling, Virginia. Wonderful, Louise. You're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning, Chris, and God bless you, and thank you for taking my call.
You bet your bottom dollar.
I love your snark because I am also snark. And I love everything you say about my former residence. I'm from Northeast Philly. I lived there until 1970. I moved out of there and went to Bucks County, and then I went to Mount Laurel, New Jersey, and I've been in Sterling now for about 15 years. And, yeah, just like you're from Chicago, that doesn't represent you, right?
Yeah, all the shooting and the mayhem and the crazy
Exactly.
Democrat madness of Chicago.
Yeah. So, I mean, I take it to heart because I know of what you speak. I remember Eagles Court held at the basement of the Spectrum. I mean, what was that? That was Veterans Stadium.
Yep.
I remember Eagles Court. Got lots of cops in the family. They're all old and retired now. But I lived it. I lived it smart enough to get out of there. But I really called to tell you this. The miracle of Sunday was, did you see the helmets that had on the back, the white band across the neck, Choose Love?
I did. And let me say this, and this came up yesterday a little bit too, Louise. When the game wrapped up and the Eagles won very handily, and they played a great football game. The interviews, the quarterback, the team people came up and they thanked God. And
all the glory to God, exactly, and that was the reason for my call.
Excellent.
85% of the players on both teams are born-again Christians, and they live the life. They walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And they're excellent athletes. I mean, the whole bunch of them. I don't know what happened to Jake Mahomes, but obviously it wasn't his day.
Yeah, Mahomes, he didn't show up. He didn't show up to play and to win. He had a bad day, off day, and Super Bowl day is the wrong day to have an off day. But boy, did he have an off day! And you're right. There was glory to God, all glory to God, and I'm thanking God. And I've got to say, and I've seen him do that before earlier in the season too. And it still makes me raise an eyebrow. Doesn't it make you raise an eyebrow? It makes me very happy, and it's great and good for them. And the networks usually try to cut that stuff out. It was Fox.
Always. And from the very beginning, he had Lauren Daigle in the pregame show singing, right?
Yep.
And from the very beginning, you didn't see any protests over patriotic music, over even when they sang that black national anthem, which I'll never understand.
Right. Yeah. Lift every voice and sing. It's just part of being un-American and being outside of the mainstream. It's the left, and they love to racialize everything and racially divide everything. Since they're the party of the Confederate States of America and Jim Crow, they love to racially polarize everything. And the Democrat Party, they polarized it to the point of the American Civil War in the 1860s, and they're still racially polarizing the country, the Democrat Party. At every turn, this lift every voice and saying, fine. At the right occasion, fine. But they must infuse every public event with racial conflict and racial division. And that's the role that one of the many vile and repugnant roles that the Democrat Party plays in the United States today.
It's tragic. It really is. But you remember the gospel. It says we're to be in the world, but not of it. So they don't represent you, and they don't represent me. They're a bunch of clowns in their clown costumes, and I don't know who they're talking to, but they're not talking to most people.
Yeah, that's a fact. Well, and clearly, and even the polls are making that clear now. And I've got to say, yes, Louise, that I think we are seeing a period in America where people are waking up and eyes are being opened and people are realizing that the Democrat Party has gone completely insane. You know, you've got former Democrat Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, who, again, Democrat member of the House of Representatives from Hawaii, a U.S. Army officer, served in an actual combat zone, unlike Minnesota Governor and Vice Presidential running mate Tim Walz. And she was a Democrat for a long, long time. Then she left the Democrat Party plantation, and now they're trying to keep her from being confirmed in the Senate because she is not singing from the party sheet music. She must be stopped. She must be destroyed. And you hear them all over the place, the Democrats, condemning her, attacking her, and accusing her of all kinds. You know, Hillary Clinton accused her of being a Russian agent. Isn't that the word she used? Right. Agent? Asset? Russian asset? I knew it was a Russian something.
Tragic. It's absolutely tragic.
Yeah, you know, it is. It's just amazing. Now, the media is against her because they're an extension of the Democrat Party, and they're corrupt. They've been corrupted by a political party which is very corrupt to its core, going back to Jefferson Davis and beyond. They're really something. But now the Democrats are doing everything they can to stop Tulsi Gabbard from being confirmed. And as the director of national intelligence, DNI, she's an Army officer, still an Army Reserve officer. And the Democrats are doing everything they can they want to turn a couple of Republicans against her to keep her from getting in because that would be a Democrat Party victory. And honestly, it's time the Republicans in the Senate just, you know, saddled up. And if you really don't like her for some reason, just take one for the team and stop undermining and sabotaging your own political party. Because, you know, it's an individual sport, but it's also a team sport, as I like to say.
Amen. Because
it's true. And Michael Piercy's making faces at me over there. What is that? Who is it? The coach for the Eagles on Sunday.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and Michael Piercy just went to the Magic Machine and found this.
How good does this feel, knowing that you beat the Chiefs who beat you 2 years ago?
Yeah, all glory to God, first and foremost. But that's a great football team, and we had to come out and play our best, and we did.
Yeah, you know, Nick came out, went to the cameras, and he's doing glory be to God, and
both of them also named the name of Jesus, and you don't see that a whole lot.
Yeah, it is. I suppose the Democrats usually praise Allah and then they self-immolate.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
I think the Democrats. How many self-immolations have they had lately, Louise? The Democrats.
One is too many.
Yeah, they had. I think seven. They had that guy self-immolate at the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas in the Elon Musk Tesla truck. He self-immolated and blew himself up. He was hoping to kill a whole lot of people in a suicide attack. This is Democrats now. They're self-immolating. They got suicide. Sorry,
you
go ahead.
quoted Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I mean,
right.
This is what it is. It's crazy against sane.
It is. And look, the Democrats have launched more suicide attacks than I can even remember right now, usually against the police, sometimes against Republican members of Congress. Suicide attack where James Hodgkinson of the Bernie Sanders campaign shot and nearly killed Congressman Steve Scalise, wanted to mow down the whole baseball field of Republicans. That was a clear suicide attack. Suicide attack on the U.S. Capitol Police, where one U.S. Capitol Police officer was murdered, Billy Evans, and in a suicide attack, and another severely wounded by the psychotic suicide attacker there. We've had in Dallas and Baton Rouge, in New York City, officers Ramos and Liu. Democrat Party suicide attacks are now commonplace. Democrat Party self-immolations are now common enough. We've had 7 of them. I believe only 6 Buddhist monks self-immolated during the Vietnam War. I'm not making this up. And 7 Democrats have self-immolated. The Democrat Party is unwell. Chuck Schumer is unwell. He's a danger to what is he a danger? A danger to democracy. Isn't that what they say everybody is when you don't vote the same way as these radicals, as these lizards? Louise, thank you. And thank you for getting better as a Philly fan. I know it must have been a long journey. It's a journey. They like that word, journey. Louise, thank you very much. President Trump coming up. All kinds of movement in the government. And the Democrats, they really want to keep the waste, fraud, and abuse in place. They are the party of waste, fraud, and abuse. WFA. We should call them the WFA. That'd be their rapper name.
Thank God. Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah, Tulsi Gabbard yesterday in the Senate. Party line vote. 52 Republicans voted to advance her. 46 Democrats all voted to crush her. She is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army Reserve. 8 years as a member of the House, a Democrat member of the House of Representatives. Let's just list a couple of former Democrats, RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, and Elon Musk, Donald Trump, Joe Rogan, me. Lots and lots of people. The party is mental. It's a mental breakdown. And they are the party of waste, fraud, abuse, theft. Let's go to the telephones again, Michael. Let's go to Mark calling from Alexandria, Virginia. Oh, Mark, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Couldn't be better.
That is terrific. I love your show. Thank you so much for taking my call. Yeah, I just wanted to comment on Tulsi, and actually kind of one of the first times I got to hear her was on that debate stage, of course. And, I'm sitting there thinking through, I watched the whole thing, Chris, and I'm sure you probably did too, but I'm thinking through the whole thing. We got a bunch of bumbling fools up there, except for one. And, she was the one that was making the sense. And I'm coming away from that thinking, well, the Democrats finally have struck gold, right? They're going to pick this person because she's smart. And, they picked the absolute worst person instead. And I was never going to vote for her because I'm not a Democrat and I'll never vote that way. But as far as I was concerned, watching her on that debate stage, she just had it all together. And, the other thing, too, Chris, you remember this from the old days. You were either a Ginger or a Marianne guy, right?
Sure, I always like to be flexible.
I'm going to throw Tulsi in there.
Oh, that's pretty good.
I'm a Tulsi guy. I love the strength that woman has. I love her forward thinking. She never gets shaken.
And now she's given up on the Democrat Party like so many other rational and reasonable people.